Brakes, part 1, master cylinder. I have all the back and rear brakes, brake hoses. We're starting with removing the master cylinder. The new master cylinder is from Centric. It is almost identical as what the original looks like. Old, new. So when we finally removed it, there's a bunch of buildup on there. Thinking there's probably a leak
on the master cylinder.
On the master cylinder, yeah.
But we're not replacing. We just gotta spray it with brake fluid to clean it up.
So there was these two nuts that were connected to it, and then these two are how they were mounted. Okay, back tires are off, back wheels are off. First thing you obviously want to do is take off your drums on both sides. This was the side that had the leak on it. When we looked at it a couple weeks ago, you can tell there was a leak on here. There still is, looks like. But we'll be replacing all of that. All the components in there we'll be replacing: drums, shoes, wheel cylinder, all the springs and whatnot. Okay, obviously step 1 is remove your wheel. This is what a rear brake looks like. Today, I got majority of my parts from Rock Auto, and the majority of them are Centric, but like some of the adjustments, brake adjusters, was from Ray Bestos. I hope I'm saying that right. But like, we're gonna be replacing these, the wheel cylinder, these guys here, obviously the shoes, and the adjustment here as well, as long as with this spring. Okay, so if you guys can pick yourself up one of these, this is like key in removing these springs and the shoes and everything like that. It's a lot easier if you have one of these. You take this on here and start twisting them off. So I'm gonna do a time lapse so it doesn't take too much time. Okay, so there's a couple we got everything off here, all the springs off. Again, if you have this tool can help you squeeze some of the parts together so you can remove some of these pieces. The rear brake shoe does have a little clip that you will probably need some like heavy duty pliers like that to try to unbend it. And then you get a flathead and pop it off. The little springs that were right here, you push and then you turn so that you can remove the little cap on that spring, and then you're able to remove everything. Now next, we have to remove the wheel cylinder, which there are a couple of 1/2-inch bolts back there we can remove. And then you'll also need to remove this guy as well. Be really careful with him, or otherwise you'll have to replace that whole line. Okay, so just like I said, we're having a little bit of trouble. Not trouble, but we're just trying to be very careful with that nut there, so we don't want to strip it. So we just put some WD-40 on there, because last thing we want is to damage that nut and have to replace that whole line, which isn't the end of the world, but that's what we're going to try to do. Let it sit for a few minutes and then try to unscrew it again. Okay, so luckily we were able to remove it. So that spring that kind of lines that entire line was kind of in the way, but we were able to finally remove it. So now we're going to remove those 2 1/2-inch bolts that's holding the wheel cylinder in place. Okay, now this thing is removed. The only thing that didn't come with my wheel cylinders are these 2 little pins, which are just pieces of metal, and they shove inside these rubber pieces here. So you're gonna have to reuse these unless you bought new ones. Good. All right, so this new wheel cylinder that I got is not the same. You see this groove right here?
And it's on the bottom too.
Oh, it's on the bottom as well? Oh yeah, I see how it doesn't sit quite right. So what we're gonna have to do, yeah, this is a bit longer.
Just a bit.
Just a little bit. So we're gonna use our wheel grinder.
We're just gonna grind it off over here in the corners. Over here in the corners and over here in the bottom, just to make it fit in there.
Just make it fit, which is no big deal. Those are just a little more beefier than the original ones. Okay, now see how it's sitting in there just perfect. Nice. and up against this back piece here.
Back plate.
The back plate. It's also nice when you have a Francisco here who knows what he's doing. Okay, so now that you've got this thing in here and you put the two little pins that I told you to save, you're pretty much going to be putting everything back together the way it was. Okay, obviously see these are the shoes. You want to make sure that they're lined up and that they're just like the ones that were in there, so that all the springs go in the same spots, and you'll see it. Also, another tip, always put some grease here on all the points where the shoes will rub, so that they don't ever lock up. And you'll be able to tell that once you clean it up with some brake cleaner. So this was the nut I was talking about previously. It's a little horseshoe nut that goes inside. You use pliers and then you squeeze it together. A little clip. I mean, not a nut, I'm sorry, horseshoe clip. Okay, so you see this little adjustment pin here. I have my new drums, all right? And this is the part where you put it on there, and then the more you tighten it down, the more it expands so that the shoes on the drum are correct. You're looking for it to be nice and tight, right?
Yeah. Like right there, I over adjust it. I put too much adjustment.
Because they're too wide.
Yeah.
And they won't go on the bolts.
So what I do to remove some studs, I open it up here and I back it up a little bit.
And then try it again.
And try it again. See how it goes? Now, how do I know that they're pretty adjustment? That's good enough for me. If they keep rotating, that's too loose. If I do that, that's good enough. Once with the torque of the motor and everything, they should be fine.
I forgot to video the other side, but this is pretty much how it should look, guys. Mine didn't come with this little centerpiece, but you don't need it, really. Make sure these are on there. Make sure your little parking brake wire is over that thing. Make sure you can shake it around like he did to make sure that nothing's loose or nothing's gonna come off. Down here, I replaced this guy and this guy. Parking brake line is right there. This is there, and that hole. These were those little screws that I told you about that you pushed and then turn them to take them out. And now we're gonna do the same thing with this drum and adjust this one. All right, here at the front. We're going to be replacing rotors, calipers, and pads. And then, of course, the brake line hoses as well. There's two in the front, one in the back. He's currently doing the one in the back. All right, that's how she looks. Got my rotors from Cquence. It's spelled with a C and then Quence. Then I got my calipers and my new brake pads. And the brake lines. And these were the brand of my new calipers. So again, Cquence, spelled like that. We removed the old, here's the old guy right there, and then we just removed the, we're going to be removing the brake hose.
Bring the new one in.
Okay, that's that one nut he's removing so we can get the brake line hose. That goes from the old caliper to the new caliper. We have to do the same thing on the other side, but we forgot these little clips that push these brake pads in place so that they don't move.
No, the caliper didn't have it, so.
Yeah, the original calipers did not have them, but Cquence and theirs, see how this is how we did it? But technically, I guess these can move. So those clips go up on here and down here so that they are good. But you see how this one's nice and tight, ready to go. New brake hose, brake line. Okay, brakes are done. Wheels are back on. Now we're gonna be turning her on and pumping it.